mount the section onto the front, so everything is now hiding behind this large face. And they do this, of course, on purpose, because they're not just going to put numbers here. They're going to use this to paint a variety of different pictures, because they started to export out of the Black Forest and realize that different countries in Europe at the time, and even today, have different relationships to colors. So a clock like this, with this clock face, which is predominantly white or cream, would go to Great Britain. Yeah, even today, that is the predominant color of the clocks you would buy. Just a little bit of decoration, nothing too crazy, please. We're English, we like to keep everything nice and calm. Then there are people in Europe who are naturally crazy. So you've got the French, the Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and this is quite long. But they have a very different relationship with colors, the more the merrier. So a clock like this then would go in that direction. Then in the year 1760, a clockmaker here takes one of the painted clocks, actually called shield clocks, and then for the very first time adds our new friend and the star of the show, the Cuckoo Band! Yay! Hey, calm down guys, calm down. Otherwise I may have to ask one of you to leave. Obviously how this works today is very simple with the amount of technology that we are surrounded with. You do have to bear in mind, 250 years ago, this was the cutting edge in home entertainment. Didn't get any better than this. Some will say it still hasn't got any better. I'm not just happy by putting cuckoos inside. Another clockmaker wanted to tell the world a very important story. So he made a very special clock to help tell that story. And he called his special clock then the mother-in-law clock. For anyone who doesn't understand that. Okay, that's pretty good. Next to that, we have a gentleman called the dumpling eater. So he sits on top of the clock this time. You see on his lap, it's freshly cooked dumplings, so every hour he's allowed to indulge in his favourite hobby, which of course is eating dumplings. You see his little eyes there, lighting up with delight. So this is again very simple for us today, but 200 plus years ago, people would look at this and be absolutely amazed. Probably one of the first mechanical things that they would see. The next big change, 1850s. Now they don't have a mechanical change, but they just have a design competition to change the exterior. And this is one not by a clockmaker as you'd expect, but actually won by an architect working for the local railway company that was bringing the railway in here. There's a viaduct that was out for the window, they were building it then. And as an architect working for the railway company, he came up with this design. He just sketched it, didn't actually build the clock, but he called it the station house clock. He based it on the station houses he was helping to build. So he was the person who introduced this very familiar house shape that we associate with cuckoo clocks so much today. Along the borders here you have this checkered design. That was to represent the railway tracks. Because in the 1850s for Europe and North America, of course, the railways were incredibly important in the gathering pace of the industrial revolution. So after the competition, many of the local companies started to use this design for their own clock production. It starts off with relatively simple carving, 1850s. We jump to the 1880s, and by this time, they're making clocks that would resemble this one here. So you see they've introduced a huge amount of detail. Different animals, birds, trees, all the kinds of things you might find in the Black Forest. So I don't want you guys going home thinking everyone in the Black Forest has got one of these hiding underneath their bed. There you go. The vast majority of the clocks sold over the last 150 plus years would be around this size with relatively simple carving. So there are two kinds of mechanical cuckoo clocks. And they're divided very simply along the lines of how often you have to wind them. So there are two different weights that you can look at. You have a smaller one, which is the 1-day clock, and a larger one, which is what we call an 8-day clock. When you hang up any kind of mechanical cuckoo clock, you need the base of the clock at least 6 feet off of the floor. With a 1-day clock, it's actually a 26-hour mechanism. So you wind it up once a day, and then it takes 26 hours to descend all the way back down to the floor. Obviously you have to wind it up again before it stops, otherwise you have to reset the time. Then the other variety, like I said, are these far larger ones. These are what we call 8-day clocks. Some people call them weekly winding clocks, because most people have a weekly routine. Some of you might be familiar with grandfather clocks, grandmother clocks. They're also normally an 8-day mechanism. So just like the name tells us, you wind it up, it takes 8 days to descend all the way back down to the bottom. So the 1-day and 8-day also have 2 different varieties, and regardless of the 1-day or 8-day, so you see some of the clocks today with 2 weights, which tells us one weight is for the mechanical clock and the other one is for the cuckoo bird. I'll show you that in a minute. So that's all you have, a clock and a cuckoo bird. Then you'll see other ones with a 3rd weight, and that means now they've added music and additional actions. So you need extra power for that. I'll show you an example of that. Next to me here, the big clock. So at 7 o'clock, 7 cuckoos of course. When our cuckoo's finished, the music will begin. People will begin to dance in the balcony. So it's a very simple dance. For some reason it's very popular with people that have consumed large amounts of alcohol or just go around in a circle. Some of you will be more familiar with that than others. So we need a cuckoo. Why is there a cuckoo clock at all? What crazy people invented this? Yesterday I believe you were in the city of Strasbourg. You saw the cathedral there? On the cathedral is a very beautiful clock tower. On the very same clock tower around 450 years ago, they had a golden cockerel or rooster that used to come out, flap its wings and make the appropriate sounds. And that is what inspired the clockmakers here to think if we can make a smaller version of this, we can sell a lot of clocks. So they began that journey to realize that. They very quickly discovered they just did not have the technology to shrink all that into a small space. So that is why they took out the cockerel or rooster and they put a cuckoo bird in. The cuckoo bird itself is around 120 different species, lives on all inhabited continents, but it's only the European variety that has this very distinct call. And it's only a 2-tone call. So to reproduce the sound, you have 2 pipes. Each one has a single opening like on a flute. The air is drawn backwards and forwards with the help of small bellows going up and down on top. So that's pretty simple. You've got 2 of those with slightly different tones, a higher and a lower tone. So you put that together inside a cuckoo clock, attach it to the mechanism, and then with a little magic, you have a robot! Some people actually think this is rocket science. Rocket science looks different. That will be a large set of pipes. Obviously you need a larger clock. As our clocks get smaller then, this would be our medium-sized variety. So you notice the pitch is getting a little higher. Then in the smallest clocks, very limited space, so we put our smallest member of the cuckoo family in there. They haven't yet gone through puberty. So as long as you keep feeding them, they will get bigger. So cuckoo clocks themselves, they're renowned for their longevity because the mechanism is incredibly simple. There's not a great deal that can go wrong. The weakest part of the cuckoo clock used to be always the actual bellows themselves. This white cloth you see here today is a mixture of cotton and nylon. But up until the early 1950s, mid-1950s and before, this was made of goat skin. Very flexible. However, after 20+ years it would dry out, become brittle, and you would lose the cuckoo sound. Obviously that won't happen today. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll go down to the far wall over here. I'll show you 1 or 2 more of the examples. The clocks that we do today. And you can run around and watch that. So if you come down this way, ladies and gentlemen, if you make a little semicircle, I just show the folks here. You can stay there.
The one with the lights.
So do some of you guys want to push around the corner? You can come in a little closer.
Standing around here.
It's okay. We're having a
you have to go in here. So you go with that? Yeah, okay, it's cool. Anyone else? Folks at the back can't see, don't worry, I'll do it again for you. We've got limited space here, I'm afraid. So this is a very important clock or special one. This is what happens when high-tech meets cuckoos. On the roof, you can see the size, you can see what appear to be mirrors. They are in fact solar panels. So they charge and recharge the battery on the side, and that drives a water pump. This is the only model of cuckoo clock that has real water which will turn our water wheel on the corner. So we're going to have 12 o'clock, 12 cuckoos. Then the music will begin. People will dance on the balcony, in the garden. Musicians go left and right. and the real water will turn. Underneath the wheel itself is a container where the water is kept, and if you want, you can keep fish and ducks in there, but they're going to be really small. Very small indeed. This is a very old story all around the world. It has different names. It's very commonly called the Romeo and Juliet story. So here's our Black Forest Romeo, wants to see his Juliet on the farm. So he grabs a ladder from one of the outbuildings and wants to play her a little surprise. But there's somebody else on the farm who can also play surprises.
Uh-oh.
So here comes his future father-in-law now. Or maybe not. This is our romantic cuckoo clock. Do we have any romantic people here today? No, everyone is dead. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind. So again, every half an hour we're going to have one cuckoo bird. 6 o'clock, 6 cuckoos. Music will start. Here's our romantic action here.
Oh, that's cute.
You have to be over 21, of course, to buy this clock, I'm afraid. Maybe asking for some kind of ID. So it's around 120 different kinds of mechanical cuckoo clocks all along this side of the room. They all have an international 2-year guarantee. So we work with clock repair people around the world. So if you need their addresses because you already have a clock and you're looking for reputable repair people, we have them in the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, South Africa, India, Japan, all of them. The main thing is you wouldn't obviously have to send it all the way back here to Germany. For those of you who enjoy an easy life, on the left side you walk down, you'll see battery cuckoo clocks. And again, where a cuckoo jumps out the window at you, you've got 2-year international guarantee. We obviously ship all over the world as well, for those of you who may be interested. Upstairs here, ladies and gentlemen, is the actual shop itself. When you start moving down towards the window, there's an internal stairs to take you down into the restaurant. You can also use the other stairs that you came up as well. Did they tell you what time the cake demonstration was happening? 5 o'clock?
5 after 5.
Oh, 5 after 5. Okay. That's right, yeah, out of the front, yeah.
Okay, outside.
Yeah, you've got to go down the stairs and where the bus is stopped, that is where the actual cuckoo will come out of the house itself.